There are more than one head for the Hydra, as was very obvious because they said so in the interview, and now we have the kit for the other heads. So I'm going to show you those other heads right now. There's one thing we need to worry about, which they, in their interview, and they still have not said how we actually access the Hydra boss. So hopefully they're not going to sneak like Hydra keys into personal rewards of CVC or something like that. That could really suck. But that is one cat that's still in the bag. We'll figure out that one a little bit later. For now, let's get into the Hydra heads. Okay, many people said the head of the tournament's not the only head. Correct. There are other heads. We have two more heads to look at with their skills here. Check this out. Hydra, head of Mischief. This is one of the other heads in addition. Check out the A1, Thieving Jaws. Attacks the enemy with the most buff. Steals all buffs from the target and steals 50% of the target's turn meter. Okay, stealing all buffs right out of the bat. That's probably meaning things like unkillable, shields, all those, gonna be an issue. Moving on to the A2, applies a buff spread, taking all buffs from this head and placing them on all heads. Changes the duration of all spread buffs to turn. Basically, what's happening here is he goes, he steals 50% of your turn meter, steals all your buffs. Next turn he goes, he splits those buffs between everyone. It is very strong, okay? Moving on to the passive here. Has a 75% chance of redirecting enemy attack onto another random head. This won't occur if this head is under a hex debuff. And then he has the same passive as the other head where he decreases the damage from AoEs by 10%, the damage from skills, and he has the other, the immunities as well, and damage from HP burn debuffs, etc. to be continued. He has a second passive, fully depletes the turn meters of all Hydra heads whenever this head's decapitated. So basically that's a bonus passive for us. You kill this head, remove the turn meter of the other heads. Let's look at one of the other heads, Head of Suffering, okay? They have a private Instagram here. If you look, you can look at all the different moves. Starting the Head of Suffering's A1, check this out. Attacks all enemies. 25% weaken debuff for 2 turns, which cannot be resisted. Will not place the weaken debuff on enemies with strengthen buff, meaning you're going to want strengthen. Okay, so now we know another thing we want on this team is strengthen as well. Moving along, Decapitation Effect, meaning when we kill this head, places a shield buff on all enemy champions for 2 turns, equal to 30% of their max HP whenever this head is decapitated. So you probably want to kill, I would imagine the goal is to kill the Head of Mischief first. That way he doesn't steal this shield when you actually kill it. However, that's just the A1 and the Decapitation Effect. Let's move on here. Here's his A3. They're going to be a little out of order. His A3 attacks an enemy and places a Pain Link debuff for 3 turns. Then grants this head an extra turn. Pain Link, we have another new debuff. Okay, I'm assuming Pain Link is very similar to Bonds of Unity, etc. from Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. I think they're probably ripping off raid mechanics here. They've ripped off other games before with their mechanics. I don't have any problem with them ripping off game mechanics. This happens from games, okay? If this is actually a straight up Bond of Pain or any of the things that they have from Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, it's actually a really cool mechanic where as time goes on, basically your people are generating more damage, but they also are having more damage dealt to them. This could be what's happening here. It could also be something that we have to remove over time. Okay, moving right along here to the next head. We're looking for the A2. Here it is. Okay, places a 50% ally protection buff on this head, or on all heads except this one for 2 turns. Then places reflect damage buff on this head for 2 turns, aka he's receiving the damage that the other allies are having, 50% of it. 50% of it, and then reflecting 30% of that damage. Also places provoke debuff for 1 turn on the enemy with the highest critical damage. So basically, this guy is to stop AoE damage. I think Baron is going to be one such hero. Baron with people like Renegade or Karma where they're resetting skills is going to be a hero that is going to do very good against the Hydra head, and this is their counter to that, reflecting the damage back to him to one-shot them. As long as we don't have an additional hidden passive in here that stops reses, we should be fine. Moving on to the passive. Almighty Suffering increases the resistance of Hydra heads by 50, decreases the damage all Hydra heads take from AoE attacks by 30%, decreases the damage taken from poison debuffs by 90%. So once again, we have damage AoE reduction. Combine all these heads together, we have a significant number of AoE damage reduction happening to this hero. Another passive, Loot the Scales, places a shield buff on all enemy champions for 2 turns whenever equal to 30% of this max head whenever this has Decapitate. That's the one we showed earlier. Okay, so now we've looked through the whole kit. We have the A1, we've got the A3, we've got the passive, we've got the passive skill continued here, which let's continue, which is basically, like I said earlier, which is you can't HP burn them, you can't War Master them, you can't Giant Slayer them, you can't do any of those over 50,000 HP. HP burn can't be over 20,000. He's immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, block, active skills, block, passive, fear, true fear, petrification. Also immune to HP exchange, HP balancing effects, cooldown increase, and turn meter reduction. Basically, he's immune to any form of cheese or any form of anything that would make it where we know how to beat this before the boss comes out. Now, when the boss comes out, really they're limiting you to just a handful of heroes. I really do see Baron being quite good here from the way that they explain pure damage, and people like Macab, pure damage is effectively something that cannot be negated no matter what they code into the game. It just happens, is the way they describe that, much like pure damage from League of Legends, which is different than true damage. Pure and true damage are actually separate mechanics. So for that reason, I believe Baron should be, and Macab should probably be pretty good here. I don't see anything about heads regenerating, and I don't see anything in particular about when the Hydra itself dies or anything like that. I don't know if this is a boss that we're just straight up killing or we're doing damage like the clan boss, but now we have these multiple heads, and this is definitely not going to be an easy boss. I've seen a lot of comments where people were wondering things like, is this going to be replacing the clan boss? Is this instead of? Is this a dungeon, etc.? We don't know. I seriously doubt it's going to be replacing the clan boss. If they put all that work into the clan boss for years and suddenly they just delete the clan boss out of the game, that would seem stupid and very counter to the logic that they do in using everything they've made. This is probably an addition. In terms of being able to run this, is this going to be extra clan boss keys? Because that's something else that's been a topic of conversation they avoided in the interview. They hem-hawed around whether or not this is going to take standard clan boss keys or have its own thing. If it's the same mechanic as clan boss keys where they regenerate over time and we can use them, that's fine. If it's something where we have to buy these keys or win these keys in clan versus clan, or God forbid you get the keys in personal rewards, we're really going to have an issue. And I mention it right now is because, like anything that comes to the game, it's always in the numbers where the details and the devil is. If you look at things like the duplicate system coming to the game, the things that we didn't receive info-wise is how many life tokens it's going to take to buy people like Sir Nick, how much your heroes get boosted when you give them extra power, basically the fine details. And I think that's where Hydra's really going to matter, because maybe we can beat this. Maybe it's possible to beat this with some heroes. Maybe some free people got lucky and got just the right heroes. However, the ability for them to even be able to access the Hydra, I think, should be readily apparent and available to all the players of this game. Everyone's excited for this content, so I'm going to make the sales pitch now before we find out that please have this be readily available from everyone, like starting early into the game, just like Clan Boss, where you can see a difficult thing that you can fail to do from the beginning. One of the issues with the game is that you can only ever do things that are gradually harder. Like you can do dungeon 1, 2, 3, 4, but you have to do the other ones to get through. Campaign's the same way. There's literally nothing in this game other than Clan Boss where you can just click and fight it and be like, oh shit, that guy is way in the future for me. I mean, some of the open world MMOs and stuff have this, and being able to see bosses that literally kick your ass is a big part of gaming. And I actually think that this would help a bit. Like seriously having a thing where you can sit there and just spam and lose to over and over, I think would actually be pretty cool. So please don't gatekeep access to this Hydra boss at all, is one of my points at the end. Not like they care what I have to say anyway.
Well, pod. Oh, welcome, 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 well, pod. Minnows, dolphins, whales too, even you, krakens, you. Welcome back to the next video.